Hello.
Hey, how are we?
Good. I think we have some attendees ready to come in.
Yes, we do. What a beautiful evening we have here.
And it's Terry Anderson. So glad you're here, Terry. And Craig, welcome. We're glad you're here. And Kat, thank you for joining us tonight. We're gonna and oh, Dennis, we always we're always strengthened by Dennis's participation. And Michael Siegel, good. Glad to hear that. That's great. So we have a collection of folks we work with, folks we've known for a long time, and perhaps some folks who are new to our ecosystem. Paul is newer to our ecosystem. We're fortunate enough to meet Paul Herbies at the Best Ever Conference in January, or February. No, it was March. Gosh,
March.
it was March. Salt Lake City, and learned a bit about how self-directed IRAs can be used and how his company can help people set them up. So it's exciting to just imagine the possibilities. Diversifying risk, diversifying investments, not being the solely at the risk of the market, as typically we are with our IRAs and 401ks. If we're not self-directing them, they're all in market. Scott's here. We met. Do we meet Scott at ISS or Best Ever? We spent a lot of time with him at ISS.
I believe it's IS where we were first met. Absolutely.
Yeah. Mike
Yeah, with
Mackey.
us getting the word out and our goal is just to continue to educate, provide options. I think there's a lot of ways we can all help each other, and I'm thankful that Paul, you've taken some time to be on the call today as well,
Yeah.
and to help us.
Mhm. And also
My
from our
pleasure.
Annie Meyer. She is the one who makes everything happen, and we appreciate her. James Reed, of course, and always providing the ideas and the energy and the assets. And I'm Anne Marie DeCoster, so happy to be with you here today. We're at the top of the hour, and we have people continuing to join. Shall we go ahead and begin?
That would be great. Paul, if you'd like to maybe just give a little bit of a story of yourself, and then I'll be glad to go in after you.
Wonderful, James. Really appreciate the opportunity here today. Want to take a moment to thank first Annie and then Anne Marie and then of course yourself, James. Really appreciate this opportunity. A little bit about myself. I am a Sioux Falls, South Dakotan. I reside in the great state where Mount Rushmore is located. I have quite the extensive background being involved in many different industries in my lifetime. One that I'm very passionate about is coaching, of course. Was able to play and coach at the collegiate level for quite some time. And yeah, really enjoyed my experience there and have been around other industries as well, such as the construction and technology industry. And am very thankful I found myself here now in the investment industry. I was very fortunate to get connected with Midland Trust, which soon came to be Equity Trust. And yeah, I'm very fortunate that I'm in the position I am to help others and to help educate others on the tax advantages of going ahead and using a self-directed IRA. It's been a powerful tool in one that I'm very happy I've had exposure to. James, tell me a little bit about yourself and your investment journey.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am born and raised here in Missouri, actually from very pretty small town of Warrenton, Missouri, and smaller community. My father ran a tree service, so I always kind of grew up in the field work, working hard. The job was not done until it was done. Every branch was picked up, and kind of sparked my entrepreneurship that you can actually go out and do something on your own. And even at a very young age, at 13, I started cutting grass. I had enough money to buy a truck, but couldn't drive yet, so I hired my friend to drive us around, doubled our line of accounts. And thankfully, I had a blessing to meet a land developer in high school, and he drove me around town showing me how you can invest in real estate. And this is a great way to build wealth. And so, right after high school, I bought my first commercial property off of Interstate 70, built a brand new nursery garden center for my landscape company. I really didn't know what I was doing. I was barely 20 at the time. I was competing against Walmart. I was installing plants. I was maintaining. I didn't know what vertically integration meant back then, but I was doing every level of the aspect and things were doing very well. I mean, I was doing very well financially. I was living there, working there. And unfortunately, one evening in 2010, I lost everything overnight to a fire. I remember pulling up to my building in golf. The fire department was trying to put it out for me, and I just stood there, just didn't know what to do. All I remember was doing was just praying like, Lord, I don't know what this means. I don't know how I'm going to recover, but I know that you're a good God and I trust you. And I just continue to pray and continue to walk through that journey. And following days, I had my old coach called me. Said, James, I'm sorry to hear about your fire. I have a storage facility you can use to kind of rebuild during this troubling time where I didn't have a house anymore. We didn't have a place to run my business. And so that one storage unit really started to help me get back on my feet. And while I was there storing my goods, I noticed that there's a lot of ways to help someone. Typically, when someone needs storage, it's divorce, loss of a loved one, disaster, misplacement. And so, with my faith background, I've always wanted to find a way to give back. And storage is truly a way to meet somebody at their needs. When someone walks through our doors, we understand what they're going through. That's not typically a joyful day that they're waking up going, hey, I want storage. There's typically something going on in their life. And our staff is trained to be able to help them throughout the process. I also realized there's a lot of money to be made. I was used to working 80 hours a week in the field. Now I can invest in real estate, and self-storage is a great cash flow vehicle as well. So since 2010, I've been on this mission to build storage that truly make impact in every community that we're doing. And now that we're providing investments for our investors, and even today, I've had my own self-directed IRA for over 6 years, and I'm able to benefit from what this self-directed can really do. It put me in control of my own returns and my own capital so I can invest in other operators to further my returns. So I'm excited to have you on the call, Paul, and I'd love for you to share with the room, how they can actually take control of their retirement accounts. So if you'd love to take it from here, would be great. I'll go ahead and get the screen shared here in a moment.
Wonderful, James. What a powerful, impactful story. My goodness. I mean, to go through such a challenging obstacle like that, having everything that you've built up and worked hard for those years, and to have it ripped away, and then to be graciously given a new opportunity by somebody who obviously was passionate and helped go ahead and provide that environment to get you into self-storage. That's impressive.
Well,
Wow.
all of us have a unique story. All of us, everybody on the call, all of us go through a lot of different trials in life, and they can take us on different courses. I'm just thankful that that's led me to where I am today, and I hope that others on the call that we can be a resource of education, resource of investments, and at the end of the day, just a resource to be able to help them in their next steps.
Well said. Well said, James. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity today here to speak to those tax advantages and speak to those ways that we can help others and empower them to take their investing journey into their own hands and to move funds out of the stuffy mutual fund room sitting in New York City and put it into hard real estate assets that can appreciate in value and give great returns. What we're really going to speak to today and what we're going to learn about is how to access the tools that the wealthy have been using since the 70s, and really find a way to demystify that, destigmatize it, and learn how we can mitigate needlessly donating to the IRS, and rather using those funds to create generational wealth and to help impact others. So a little bit about me. I currently am employed by Equity Institutional Services, formerly known as Midland Trust Company. A little bit over 2 years ago, we were actually recently acquired by Equity Trust Company. You're going to see that beautiful photograph off to the left here being our home office in Cleveland, Ohio, where many of us our associates are going to be located. We've quickly transitioned to Equity Institutional Services and have rebranded from Midland Trust here last year in 2024. A little bit about us. We've currently actually bolstered from what that slide has said, even in the past months. Currently, we're sitting with 416,000 account holders and now $70 billion assets under custody. We are in one of the fastest growing industries in America. As more and more people continue to educate themselves, continue to become educated by others, they quickly realize that they can take their retirement funds and their investing journey into their own hands. When going ahead and being acquired, a few different offices were acquired. I'm currently sitting, as I mentioned earlier, in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where we're actually chartered with the South Dakota Division of Banking as a custodian. There's other offices that were included in that acquisition as well. Some of my peers down in Fort Myers, Florida, where most of our 1031 team will reside, and then up in Chicago, Illinois, where we do a lot of our private fund custody for registered investment advisors. We were actually named as the best custodian to work with when it comes to private equity investments. And this was even prior to our acquisition in 2023. So this is something that we have been doing for a very long time. And something that we have a lot of experience in is getting those investor funds quickly and seamlessly placed into opportunities. So what is a self-directed IRA? A self-directed IRA is a marketing term. Truly, that's what it is. It's an IRA like any other. The biggest difference is who is that custodian? Who is going to be the entity to go ahead and get those funds placed? Self-directed is really going to refer to you being the driving factor behind those retirement funds. There's a big difference between our entity, equity, trust company, and a lot of other entities out there like Schwab, Fidelity, JP Morgan, T. Rowe Price. A lot of those entities you'll see on halftime Super Bowl commercials because they're concerned with assets under management. And they want to go ahead and ultimately get you invested into one of their managed funds. That's really what they're concerned about. They want to grow their assets under management. We've built our entity this past 52 years as Equity Trust Company in doing something completely different, which is getting people invested into what they want to be invested into. We completely carved out a niche into getting people invested into these alternative assets that those other custodians won't provide because it goes against their business model. Now, there are so many different assets that one could invest into, but my personal favorite is real estate. That hard asset that's going to appreciate, that's going to cash flow, and that has stood the test of time. God's not making any more dirt. He's made all of it already. It's here in this beautiful green and blue earth. And I see myself and other members of my family continue to invest into real estate time and time again. Now, ultimately, you will need a self-directed IRA custodian to be able to make this investment. As I mentioned earlier, a lot of custodians will not allow you to invest in alternative investments because they want to keep your funds segregated in their assets under management. Now, there are many different advantages when going ahead and investing with a self-directed IRA. One of the greatest advantages that I see time and time again is that you don't have to pay capital gains taxes on your return. It is paramount. I work with many different investors who are well past the age of 59 and a half, that age being the age of distribution. So make sure to write that down. That's important. 59 and a half is going to be the age where you can start taking those distributions out of your retirement account without an additional 10% penalty from the IRS. But many investors I work with, even beyond that age, continue to leverage their IRA funds to invest because they're investing from a tax advantage position. They're not paying capital gains taxes on those returns. So it is a huge way to continue to build generational wealth as well as shelter it while making those investments. Now, there's many different investment options out there. Self-storage and flex space is really what we're going to be focusing on today. And I've certainly helped many investors get placed into those types of asset classes for real estate, and I've seen that directly impact many different lives. When it comes to our fees, we operate off of a flat, fixed fee-based model, much different than the 220 people are used to paying a financial advisor, that being the 2% for their performance fee and 2% on a management fee and 20% on a performance fee for those funds that RA manages. When it comes to our administrative fees, we charge $555 the first year and $350 annually thereafter. So we pride ourselves on having flat fixed fees for our investors. We also offer a second option, which is a value-based fee schedule for those serial IRA investors, which we see many of. And true diversification is a huge reason that we have seen an immense influx of people going ahead and self-directing their retirement funds. If anyone's been paying attention to the political and geopolitical landscape as of late, there's a lot of volatility in the market. There's a ton of uncertainty. Are tariffs happening? Are tariffs not happening? Are we really putting the screws down on China? Are we doing under the table deals with China? What's going on, right? There's a ton of sentiment that I've seen from the investor community on going ahead and moving eggs out of that one basket, because most of America holds their eggs in that one basket, that S&P 500, those mutual funds, and those stocks and bonds. And I increasingly see people continue to move those out so that they can be well diversified and they can have all of those eggs spread out amongst all those different baskets. Now, another popular reason that a lot of people will use their IRA to invest, and really a moment that will cause that spark, is when they leave a current employer. That's going to be one of the most common reasons that people will reach out to me and start getting into a self-directed IRA, is because they can roll over funds from a former employer 401k. Now, with that being said, some are actually still able to go ahead and roll over funds from an active 401k, that called an in-service rollover, although it is typically the exception and not the norm. But there are many different vehicles one could go ahead and roll over from, and we'll make sure to get into that very soon. Now, I want to speak to those plans here today. A 457B is a common plan that I will see used and rolled over into a self-directed IRA. These are going to be plans that are sponsored at the government or state level. So think of local elected officials, police officers, firefighters, and the like. Those are going to be those with a 457B. A 403B would typically be held by somebody in the public school systems or maybe a non-for-profit organization, but we're all very familiar with a 401k. That is going to be the most common way people are going to fund these vehicles to be able to go ahead and invest. Other ways people are able to fund the vehicles is through an IRA to IRA transfer as well as many other accounts. A thrift savings plan is going to be a great retirement account for those uniformed guard service members. Think Coast Guard, think the Marine Corps, think of the Army, Navy, the Air Force. A lot of those members have thrift savings plans that they can actually roll over into a self-directed IRA as well to deploy that capital into the self-storage and flex space arenas. Now, when it comes to those IRA accounts, there's many different retirement accounts. So at the end of the day, we want to make sure to equip you with the one that is going to be best for your goals. The traditional IRA is going to be a pre-tax account where you're going to go ahead and when you start taking those distributions in life, you're going to be paying ordinary income tax on. They're called pre-tax because you're funding them with pre-tax funds. A great thing about that is ultimately when you go ahead to use it to invest, you're not paying capital gains taxes. The contribution for that's going to be capped at $7,000 or $8,000 if you're 50 or older, which is going to be known as a catch-up contribution. Roth IRAs are going to be post-tax in nature. The amazing thing about Roth is when you start pulling that money out later in life, that age of distribution, 59 and a half, it will not create a taxable event. This is an immense way that I've seen many, many different families really start to create that compounding interest in the absence of taxation. It's a great way to go ahead and snowball wealth accumulation when mixed with real estate. Other types of accounts that you could go ahead and use would be a SEP IRA. That is going to be reserved for business owners, but it's going to have a much higher contribution limit of $70,000 that you can go ahead and contribute into a single tax year. So I'll also see business owners who are looking to invest go ahead, create that SEP IRA, make that contribution, and then deploy capital from that account accordingly. So there are other ways to go ahead and get there if you don't per se have a former 401k to roll over funds from or another IRA to transfer from. A simple IRA is going to be another account for business owners. Now, this is going to differ from the SEP IRA. As for the SEP IRA, you need to have less than 26 employees. For the simple IRA, it's going to be limited to those groups with less than 100 employees. With that SEP IRA, it's going to have a little bit lower of a contribution limit, that being $16,500 or $20,000 if you're going to be of that age of that catch-up contribution, that being 50 or older. There's also other types of accounts that I will see, such as inherited IRAs. Those are in IRAs someone would inherit from a deceased beneficiary and are another great way to go ahead and make a real estate investment. When going ahead and investing, there's also other accounts outside of IRAs that you could go ahead and use. A solo 401k is another option for a business owner that doesn't have any common law employees and is another account you could go ahead and use to invest. It is a great way to go ahead and contribute, as it also has a contribution limit of $70,000, a very high one, similar to that SEP IRA. But the amazing thing about the solo 401k is you can contribute Roth dollars to it. So you could really go ahead and supercharge that post-tax funds that you're looking to set aside. So when you do become of that age of distribution, you're not having to worry about any tax consequences on the back end. Two other accounts I really want to call out tonight as well that I've seen people go ahead and deploy capital from into self-storage offerings is going to be an ESA and an HSA. So an ESA is going to stand for a Coverdell Education Savings Account. Now, those people think they're typically used for educational expenses, and they, for the most part, are, except when you're looking to self-direct funds. Now, these are going to have lower contribution limits of $2,000, but I've seen people over a lifetime continue to contribute, continue to invest accordingly out of them. Another being a health savings account, typically used for those qualified medical expenses, think deductibles, copays, and the like. Those are going to have different contribution limits depending if you have a family or with yourself, with the family being at $8,550 and the self being at $4,300 for the current tax year 2025. When it comes to going ahead and getting investing, it's great to know your options and great to be educated on the different accounts you can deploy capital from. Some considerations to use when going ahead and investing with an IRA: you need a custodian. There's no other way around it. It is an IRS requirement. It's going to be made from the IRA, the actual investment. So it wouldn't be Paul Herbis investing. It'd be Equity Trust Company as custodian for benefit of Paul Herbis, account number 12345. Now, cash flows typically need to involve custodians. We'll get into checkbook IRAs here in a second, which is a way to circumvent that when it comes to collecting rent and going ahead and deploying capital for a build, for example. But when it comes to making those contributions to an IRA account and distributions, you're going to want to go ahead and involve that custodian. Typically takes 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how you're funding the account, with the 1.5 to 2 week window being for an IRA to IRA transfer, and that 3 week window being a rollover from another account outside of an IRA. Now, what are the steps to go ahead and get vested? Fairly seamless. Go ahead, create the IRA account, fund the IRA account via transfer or rollover, and then deploy capital into that offering. Now, what is a checkbook IRA? A checkbook IRA is not a specific type of IRA. We just covered those. We just got into all the niches, all the different types of vehicles you could go ahead and use to invest. But a checkbook IRA ultimately is going to be a vehicle that is going to be an LLC. It's an IRA that owns an LLC outright, and it's a manager-managed LLC. Very important when you're going ahead, when you're working with someone, that it's structured correctly. What this is really going to encourage and allow for is limited liability protection, protecting you on a personal level, and then allowing you to have that transaction speed. As the name implies, you would actually have a checkbook to go ahead and write from to deploy that retirement capital into a real estate offering. Now, we could certainly help with that lift. We could go ahead, help you create those articles of organizations, the operating agreement, registering for the EIN, initially filing with the state, and going ahead and establishing a bank account with Titan Bank, one of our partners in the industry. They do an absolute wonderful job and have been around for quite some time. But all that being said, you could also go ahead and create that LLC if you have experience. If you're a business owner, if you're an attorney, you could certainly go ahead, create that manager-managed LLC and deploy that IRA capital into that manager-managed LLC. Now, I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to make sure to provide a visual for you guys here tonight. This is what that autonomy would look like when going ahead and investing. So the IRA itself would actually own that LLC outright, and it is going to be that single member LLC that's manager managed. That owner of that LLC is going to be the IRA, so it would be Equity Trust Company for benefit of, as I had mentioned earlier. Very important that it's organized that way while going ahead and investing. Also want to call out with this LLC that it can't have any previous business activity. So it needs to be a newly formed LLC that hasn't transacted yet. And then when it comes to going ahead and investing and all those investment related expenses, that can flow freely from that LLC back into that real estate investment. Now, what are some considerations when going ahead and using your checkbook IRA? You want to be mindful of disqualified parties. Who is going to be a disqualified party to my IRA? First and foremost, I'm going to be. So say I had an acre of land that I wanted my IRA to purchase. I wouldn't be able to sell it for myself personally to that IRA. The same is going to be true of my spouse. I would not be able to purchase an offering from my spouse. And the same is going to be true of any of my lineal ancestors. So my parents, my grandparents, my lineal descendants, so my children, their marriages, my future son-in-laws, and then any of their offspring. So any of my grandkids, great grandkids, God willing, my great grandkids are not going to be able to go ahead and make those purchases with their IRA from me, nor I to them. Now, when it comes to prohibited transactions, definitely something to be aware of as well. I mentioned selling the land to myself. That would be one example. Another would be self-dealing. So let's say, for instance, I'm going ahead, I'm raising equity into a fund. I wanted to invest with my IRA. While I could make that investment, I can't pay myself a performance fee or a management fee for deploying that IRA capital into that offering. When it comes to handling of funds, very important to be aware that no commingling can occur. You would never want to use that checkbook IRA, for instance, to fill up your pickup truck. I've heard some very unfortunate stories of individuals who have used it on a personal basis, and that is not something you want to do. It's a checkbook IRA, yes, for real estate investing, not to go ahead and purchase some Wendy's at lunch, right? So important to go ahead and keep those items segregated. When it comes to individual responsibility, important to be aware of what you're investing into, right? Keep a ledger. It's something that is encouraged. Now, of course, you could go ahead, leverage Titan Bank, grab those bank statements as well. And the same is true of the accounting. It's going to be a manager-managed LLC, so you're going to have full control of that LLC when it comes to real estate investing. Now, what does the process look like to go ahead and really creating that checkbook IRA? Ultimately, you're going to want to go ahead and reach out. That's going to be the very first step, the very first process. While you can create an LLC on your own, if it's not something you have experience with, I would encourage you to go ahead and reach out to us. It is something that we do frequently, every day. And I have seen many different individuals go ahead, try to create this on their own, and then give me a call 2 weeks later and say, Paul, I need some help, because there is a specific way to set it up. It needs to be a manager-managed LLC, and the sole member needs to be that IRA. We would then help you go ahead, create that business checking account, and ultimately transfer funds from our institution to that LLC account to where you could deploy capital freely, and then start investing and invest early and often. That's what I would encourage, and that's what I've been encouraged by many different mentors in my life. A big thing, once again, is that those capital gains taxes. At the end of the day, you are not paying capital gains taxes on your return, so it is definitely something to seriously consider. I was speaking with a client here a few months ago, and they were very much so interested in real estate. It was something that they're passionate about and have been passionate about for a while. And I encouraged them to reach out to their financial advisor to have a conversation about alternative assets, and frankly, to see what they were currently invested in. A lot of individuals, a lot of clients I work with at times have no idea where their dollars are actually being put. And I want to call that out. This gentleman specifically was going ahead and he was invested in an international real estate fund. So I asked him, where are your dollars being deployed? What countries are they invested in? Go ask your financial advisor. They had words. The financial advisor had no idea what countries that capital was being deployed into. So it's important to have those conversations. It's important to know where your money is. I understand for most, a lot of those different entities, they could be a college buddy, maybe even tracing back to high school, right? There's a strong relationship there, which I can totally understand and respect. But I would appreciate the opportunity to have you challenge that thought. Have you challenge the thought of going ahead and following the crowd, investing in public equities, and possibly taking consideration to diversify your retirement funds, to move all of your eggs out of that one volatile basket and into hard assets such as real estate. At this time, I want to make sure I can open it up to a Q&A. I want to help entertain questions tonight. I want to make sure I can be a reliable resource for you all and ensure that you have a light on a hill when it comes to investing with your retirement funds and going ahead and using a custodian to make that happen.
I wanted to mention as well that we could take questions in the chat. You're welcome to raise your hand and also pose a question. I know I wondered too, Paul, while they're thinking about some questions, what is a normal, typical turnaround? Say that I have an account that I want to roll over, I have an opportunity that I want to invest in. What does that typically time frame look like?
Yeah. So if you're moving from an IRA to IRA transfer, that time frame typically looks like a week and a half to 2 weeks. If you're moving from a a former 401k account or any other account outside of an IRA, we're typically looking at a 2.5 week to 3 week timeline. The reason for the longer timeline with that rollover is that current custodian will actually send us a check in the mail that we're going to hold for 5 days to let those funds clear. So important, if you're interested in doing this, to start having the conversation early. The very first step would be to go ahead and reach out. I would encourage you to go ahead, either give me a call at my cell phone number, shoot me a text, and I can even put my calendar link in the chat as well, so that if you do want to go ahead, if you do want to have a one-on-one conversation via video like this, I can go ahead and be a reliable resource, help answer those questions, learn more about your goals, what you're trying to accomplish, so that ultimately we can have a retirement account that suits you and suits your real estate investments.
So we have a question coming in from Mike Siegel. If I have a managed IRA with Merrill Lynch, how would this work to transfer? Can I then add additional contributions to it?
Great question, Mike. So if you have a managed IRA over at Merrill Lynch, the first thing that you could do is go ahead, reach out. We would go ahead and establish an account with the same tax status. So if it's a pre-tax account currently sitting over at Merrill Lynch, we would want to ensure to get you into a pre-tax account here as well. Now, there's many different types of pre-tax accounts, so we'll want to make sure to find the right one for you. But ultimately, after that account has been established, we as the receiving custodian would actually reach out to Merrill Lynch. The only thing we would ask you to do on your end is to ensure there are enough liquid funds in that account for us to pull upon to go ahead and get you placed into self-storage or into a flex-based investment. You could certainly go ahead and contribute additionally for that tax year as well. I know we're past the tax deadline of April 15th, but if somebody had went ahead and actually filed an extension for their taxes, they could actually continue to contribute up until 2024 and up until they actually file that individual return. So you would certainly be able to make that contribution, or of course you could make it for the tax year 2025 as well if you had already went ahead and filed on April 15th.
So the benefits of being late. You can straddle. So
That's
Paul,
right.
can you talk a little more about capital gains. If these funds are invested into an IRA, a self-directed IRA, into real estate, we avoid taxable capital gains?
Yes, we are not paying capital gains taxes at the end of the day when it comes to IRA investing. And it's an amazing thing because those capital gains tax rates aren't going down. If you guys were following along today, there was actually a bill passed in the House that's on its way to the Senate as we speak, where that capital gains tax rate is actually going to be increasing a few percentage points. So it is a highly leveraged tax vehicle. I mean, this is how the wealthy have been accumulating and have been investing since the 70s. I mean, since the ERISA Act came out itself. So this is certainly a way that you could go ahead, avoid those capital gains taxes, deploy capital, and use those returns to go ahead and further invest into other real estate investments. Make your dollars stretch rather than needlessly donating to the IRS, investing out of your personal account, and ultimately being liable for those capital gains taxes.
And so this is why there's such a robust market for this kind of investment, which is called retail investment. It's just something that I've heard from the different investment platforms and the consultants who run them, that there's a tremendous amount of retail investment like this going on for that very reason.
So much so, Anne Marie. I couldn't agree more. As we progress further and further here, and over the years, I can only see private equity becoming more and more decentralized and more accessible to more investors. Our goal, Anne Marie, is to be in every home in America, to be in the financial journey, to be in the retirement journey with every individual. I think that it is paramount to be able to go ahead, not only to diversify, but to seek the returns that you're looking for and to be able to retire at the age that you desire to, and to even cash flow past that age of 59 and a half, I think is an amazing tool to really help create that financial journey.
I'm going to ask Scott Dillard's question as well, which is, if you invest with your IRA with a loan, are you responsible to file a 990T for unrealized business income, UBI? Does Equity Trust do this for you?
Great question, Scott. So we do help with 990T preparation, actually. So that is something that we're certainly well equipped to handle. Now, there are accounts that won't trigger that unrelated business income tax. So I do want to call that out. That solo 401k that we were mentioning earlier for business owners that don't have common law employees, that account circumvents UBIT. So there's ways that we can ensure that doesn't occur. But if you are going ahead deploying capital out of an IRA and you do occur this, certainly something we can help assist with, and yeah, something we have experience.
Good to hear. You mentioned that you want to get this in every home. I think I remember Steve Jobs saying that a long time ago, which a
We're
lot of us are using for this webinar.
we're on our way, Anne Marie. I certainly believe that. I mean, even over the past couple of years, we've been able to bolster from that 58 million to that, from that 58 billion to that 70 billion level, and I only see us increasing due to further education opportunities and due to people becoming more aware of their ability to take their financial journey into their own hands, right? And not having to go ahead and pay somebody a ludicrous performance and management fee just to do what they do for every other investor. It's not a unique strategy. It's the same thing they do for every separately managed account they have. Sure, they take into effect your risk tolerance, but at the end of the day, it's copy paste. And this is really a way I've seen people be able to set themselves apart from the pack when it comes to those returns.
For those of us in the self-storage business, it sounds like they're the spare foot. Whereas we need some more personalized guidance so we're not competing against each other.
Great question, Scott.
So James, we've reached the ends of the questions in the Q&A, and maybe this is a good time to transition to the opportunities that we have for folks today.
Would love to. Now, let me go and get over to my screen here. So tonight, my goal is just to be able to give you a live example of what does a self-directed IRA look like into a real estate asset investment. Today, we're going to be talking about self-storage and flex space and what it looks like working with our team and what our goals are with invested capital. As we get into this, as a lot of you know my backstory, we're focusing in on providing great investments for our investors, but we're also looking at how do we impact beyond returns within our own communities. As we build these facilities, as we continue to help our community, what does that look like for us? And we will continue to drive that direction within our investment platform. Our goal as Invested Capital Storage Fund is provide opportunities for cash flowing and debt opportunities for our expansion of our StoreCo portfolio. Our goal is to continue to provide opportunities. As Paul had mentioned, that our goal, just like Paul, is just to be able to give people an option, give them an opportunity to be in control of their capital, in control of where they want to invest. And our goal is to give them opportunities from a wide range of our portfolio, from self-storage to flex space. Our strategy is to utilize our full integrated platform. I had mentioned earlier that we have launched StoreCo Storage as our management arm. We acquired BBI Constructors to build our facilities, and Invested Capital was launched just to be able to provide investment opportunities for our investor base. As we look into more of the details of the fund, we invest in self-storage and flex space. Our goal is to continue to provide opportunities even as low as $50,000 is our minimum investment into our investments. So no matter what range that is for our investors, we want to be there for them and be able to help out with those activities. When you're working with us, it's not just like a stock exchange. We actually have webinars. We have quarterly reportings. We have the webinars to let you know what's happening at the ground level at those facilities. You're welcome to ask questions. And what's nice about our assets is that you can actually walk into them. You can actually see the facility in self-storage or flex space. The benefit of our fund is that self-storage is a very simple business model. And when it's ran right, it has steady returns. The market range from the self-storage to flex continues to give that broad reach for our investors and hedging against inflation. Self-storage, it's month-to-month leases. We're able to send out rate increases to our tenant base that continues to drive revenue and continue to opportunities for our investments to continue to grow within our platform. Looking at the next slide here. Pardon me. Small. There we go. Sorry about that. There we go. So I wanted to give a couple of examples. So when we're referring to an equity investment, typically in our ground up development, it's typically a 5-year hold. We'll be doing an 8% preferred return with a 70-30 split, 70% to the investors. An example here is a 5-year project where we're paying out our 8% preferred return. We have a 70% cash flow distribution to our investors. And throughout that 5-year hold period, you have a total of your preferred returns plus your earnings during the cash flow event. And our big event is going to happen during the cash out refi or the sell of the asset, but also contribute to the 70% split to the investors. So this is an example of $100,000 invested, and over a 5-year period, it'd be a return of $222,000 with this example for us. Referring to a debt opportunity, this is more of your cash flow investor looking for that quarterly distribution. This would be another example of $100,000 invested over a 5-year period with the consistent quarterly distribution over the years. Each year is $12,000. Over that 5-year period, you're looking at a $60,000 return. With your original equity return, it'd be $160,000 at the end of the 5-year mark. As we look into the asset class itself, we love storage. My entire team does, but that's not just us who love it. It's the resilience that it gives us. And we're thinking about 2008, the financial crisis. Self-storage was the lowest default rate, and it's still the lowest default rate today in any real estate class. Even during COVID, we thrived. It really was a really strong asset class. And the other great thing about storage is that nationwide, the usage continues to grow. More and more people are using self-storage, giving us continued demand in our marketplace. The value add potential from revenue streams, from self-storage, boat and RV, and additional self-storage opportunities continues to provide that additional potential. As you can see here in these photos, you can physically walk and see your investment at any point in that into that investment cycle. At Invested Capital, we keep it very simple. We have 4 models. We have a development pipeline where we're looking at the main streets. And what that means is that we're looking for ground to develop. There are several areas within our markets where we're able to find areas where there's an unmet demand for self-storage, and we build a Class A storage facility there. Our other option is our acquisitions. Think about a mom and pop running a store. When we go in to buy this mom and pop, we're able to bring in our professional management, the marketing, the rate increases, the way that we're able to market and continue to expand that store. Conversions are one of our favorite. We're able to buy facilities or buildings. Think of a vacant Kmart or a vacant shopping center. We're able to go in there and buy that building below replacement cost. What does that mean? That means that we're able to buy this entire building below what it would cost to build new today. And then we go in and build self-storage into a Class A storage facility. Our bucket 4 with our strategy is expansions. Most of our developments are larger developments. One, it provides us opportunity for multiple phases. That way we have a strategic plan on the phases within that investment. Also, when we go to sell the asset, the new owner has a potential upside to continue to expand. And more importantly, it's the end buyer. We're looking for the REITs and larger operators to buy our facilities to get the highest number for our facility. These are just a few examples over the years that we provided for our investors. One example is this larger development is about 19 acres. We subdivided it into 3 parcels. One was for self-storage, flex space, and boat and RV storage. That way we have a really broad reach of client base driving revenue. And the reason why we do separate parcels is that we know that the storage buyer is going to be the strongest buyer for self-storage. Same thing with the flex space perspective. So just giving an example here with one of our developments. O'Fallon conversion was a trampoline park that we bought, and we were able to build a 2-story conversion in here. Thankfully, we were actually named the facility of the year. And through COVID, we hosted drive-in movies throughout the parking lot. You can see here in this lower photo that we have also retail that's tied to this project and a very large outlot. Why I mention that is that within these investments, we're looking at ways to diversify our own investments, but also exits. There's an opportunity for us to sell off the retail to a retail end user and the outlot to a land use or maybe a fast food restaurant, and continue to keep the large building for our self-storage. So there is a lot of advantage with larger properties giving us those options. As we look at the O'Fallon opportunity, this is another example of our hub and spoke model. This is about a mile away from one of our other facilities that we plan to continue to construct once we reach occupancy at our sister company. Always looking in the future for opportunities. And another opportunity is the fact that we're able to have a waiting list and build upon that waiting list our next facility. Give an example here is St. Peter's Phase 2. Tonight, we're going to have an opportunity to share our investment for our investment document about Phase 1. In this Phase 1 that we built off of a waiting list of our sister company about 5 miles away, and within 6 months, we were already 50% occupancy at this facility. So we're already talking about Phase 2 on St. Peter's. You know, why invested capital? I think a lot of you heard my backstory. I have a really personal touch within this self-storage industry, how it's affected my life and how I want it to be impactful for others. And the team that we have behind us is where it's at. We're driven individuals that want to make impact. We have this large initiative to reach 500 stores by 2050. And that's going to take a large group of our team, a commitment to our investors, and continue to drive our team forward in this momentum and our movement of what we're wanting to do. And so when you team with us, you're teaming up with a very large team that's committed. And I talked about the driven, that's what spells our core values: discipline, resilient, integrity, vision, excellence, and noble. We truly care about what we do, and it shows up every time. When you care for the client, when they're walking through the door, they know when someone cares. They know when someone's trying to help them. And that is what our goal with every client that comes through our door. We do storage differently. And if you come visit us, you'll be able to see that firsthand. How we are treating our customers makes a difference. And it starts with our leadership team. I'm very proud to have every single one on our leadership team that when they're able to empower each other to make decisions, as we make our decisions through our driven core values, we're able to speed up the process. We trust each other. We understand what we're doing, and each one of us brings a very unique ability to the table to continue to grow our team in the way that we have. As I look at this next photo as well, our team continues to grow. It brings me a smile every time I see this photo because I love seeing the team grow. I love seeing the team to expand and they're also in investments, as even we have several team members on the call today because you don't know what you don't know. And our goal is to be fully transparent. We want to help everyone that we can that walks in our door, our investors, our team. We want people to grow within our ecosystem. And so as you're part of our investments and our opportunities, we want you to be able to experience that we do want you to grow in this process. And as we learn, we share. We have this webinar with Paul where we're educating. I've had this self-directed IRA for 6 years now, and it's done wonders for me. And I want others to be able to tap into those resources. And that's why I'm thrilled to have these calls. And I'm thankful for you guys taking the time out of your day to be with us on the call. As we talk about the market experts, we have our in-house construction, our management team. You know, I personally live in about 15 minutes to most of all of our facilities here in St. Louis. We kind of do our hub and spoke model. As I look at this next photo, you can see the blue dot is our headquarters, and that we continue to build around our facility to do the hub and spoke model. And what that does is it drives efficiencies. One manager can manage a couple facilities. One rental truck can service all of our facilities, providing a resource for our tenant base to be able to actually use a vehicle during their storage needs. You know, when we look at our invested capital portfolio, we drive efficiencies, but more importantly, Class A storage facilities. I'd love for you guys to visit our facilities because we do it different. And our goal is to be able to have a very high value for our own selves, but also for the end buyer, Class A storage facilities. For the REITs and other publicly traded companies, they're looking for larger properties, and that's what we're building. We actually build for a lot of the publicly traded companies. Actually, on the construction side, we built 13 alone for extra space, and we're able to share notes back and forth. So even our building methods are growing and becoming more robust as we're learning and sharing notes with other operators. You know, we talked about Storco Storage, our vertical integration of our management. We know every square inch of our facility. If you have any questions, we can answer it for you. And that is our goal, is to be part of the process all the way through. As I mentioned earlier, BBI Constructor has built all our facilities. We're celebrating 20 years this year, and 2022 is when I acquired them myself. We knew that the development pipeline was never going to end for us. With our large goal, we're going to continue to develop and scale. And part of that process is having that internal team that we know every square inch. We can also build these near cost, driving additional revenue for ourselves and our investors. There's a couple ideas when you're talking about investments, from the passive investments to the timeline to consider the cash flow, because every investment is a little bit different. And as we get to know you and understand your buy box, we can help you understand and broaden your reach and your opportunity to invest along with us. As we dive into this is where a live example, this is something that we just opened up this May, and we'll close out June the 20th is our timeline. We're raising 4 million. We've already had several million committed. We still have some shares open for investments here. What this is in St. Peter's storage phase 1. We opened up of June of last year. So this June, we'll be celebrating our first year being open. And I had mentioned within our first 6 months of being open, we're already over 50% occupancy. And our goal with this capital raise is for us to expand our immediate footprint. We talked about phase 2. We're looking at another development nearby. So we're pulling some of our equity out to continue to expand our global footprint here in our immediate marketplace. We're offering 13 to 15% preferred returns based on the level of investment with your capital. As we look into the next page as well, is that it's 8 acres, 57,000 square feet. We have 317 units. As I mentioned, that we opened up in 2024, and you look to the right here, vehicles per day on 75,000. The population is 144. The average household income is 136, and St. Louis is in the top 25 MSAs in the United States. A little bit deeper dive as well. It is an equity raise. The offering started here in May. It's a 3-year term. We'll do reporting and distributions quarterly. We had mentioned that it's a 13 to 15% preferred return. And it's based on the level investment, as you see to the right, 13, 14, and 15. And what does preferred return mean? I'd like to explain that real quick. So a preferred return means that the investor has preference. They get paid first. So during the lease-up period, when we start to cash flow, we'll have distributions to give out to the investors. And the investors get paid first. So your returns get paid first to make sure that you were made whole based on your percentage. And that's what's great about this investment, is that it's a preferred return, and that's the preference that we have for our investors. As we dive into this, you kind of see some photos to the left, our grand opening. We had a very unique grand opening. I'm very much into the community involvement and finding ways to bring people to this is a storage grand opening. There's, I don't know, probably 100 people there. That's a lot of people for self-storage. We actually had a local celebrity who does monster truck jams here locally. He came in and crushed cars, and on top of the cars were our competitors' names. And so that's how we crush our competition. So we keep it fun. Life is too short not to have fun. So it was a really good opportunity just to get out in front of the public. As you can see here in the photo, every store you walk in is Storco Storage. It looks the same. Rent online, kiosks. We want to make sure that we capture every lead. And to the right is our pro forma. So a year from now, you'll be looking at year 1, 2, and 3, and you can see the growth of our value of our asset continues to grow year over year as we're going through the lease-up period with our investment. As we look at greater St. Louis, I'm only 5 miles away from our headquarters. We're near 3 million people in our metro area. Corporations like Boeing, GM, MasterCard, Enterprise, several large corporations in our immediate marketplace for our location. Real quick about the family of companies. We talked about Storco Storage, our management arm, BBI Constructors. FlexSpace is a platform where we're bringing in investors, operators, and educating them how to get into the FlexSpace market. And then ProSuite is our brand that we manage the FlexSpace properties. So just a few next steps as you go through this process. It's just setting a call with us, a one-on-one. We'll make a commitment, some really easy docs, and then I'd like to open up to a couple questions to the room as well. But our goal is just to be able to provide options. If you're a local investor, we'd love to give you a tour. If you happen to be out of the state, we'd love to be able to do a Zoom call with you to talk more. But love to open up to the questions for us.
So James, we do have a question from Corey. Would we be able to invest in the fund through the self-directed IRA? We struggle to meet the criteria for accreditation, but have the money to invest. She's not the only one in that circumstance.
Yeah,
Yes. Go ahead, Paul.
yeah, the IRA is gonna reflect that investor criteria. So by nature, that IRA is going to reflect if you are accredited, your IRA is accredited. If you're not accredited, your IRA would not be accredited.
So then what would be an option for someone like Corey?
So we spoke about this internally as well. We've had several investors come up to us recently and asked that. So we're looking at potentially phase two in this investment. It is on a separate parcel. So we're looking at a non-accredited beginning of our process of our investors. I think we can have up to 30, I believe, in our
30.
next raise. And so we do have an active pipeline of investments. I had mentioned this one's open today. We're closing out at the middle of June June 20th. And so Corey, I would say just continue to listen in. We'll be able to provide some additional insight of our future investments as well. But that's our goal, is to continue to provide options. And we've had a lot of requests as well. And so we'd like to explore that with our next capital raise. So great question. I appreciate the insight.
Right, and we appreciate the question because it validates that our thoughts that there is the need and the desire and interest in that. How it is done is very particular, and once you start it in one direction, you can't change directions. So it's something that we're learning about and discovering and determining the right path, and we will certainly be in touch soon
And
about.
Anne-Marie, I would mention as well, they can follow me on LinkedIn, or if they go to the Invest Now QR code, they could be onboarded into our investor portal, and they can see investments come online as they do, and they'll be able to read in if it's open to accredited or not accredited. So that's another great vehicle for them to follow and join us.
Yes, absolutely. And we do have another question from Kat Reddy. Do you need help finding investment opportunities, James?
We're always looking for opportunities.
We are.
If it's within our buy box, we'd be glad to explore that. I'd love to jump on a call with you. We do have strategic partners that we work with, so we're always open to working with others and continue to find that opportunity to expand in those markets. So yeah, I'd love to connect with you. If you can, book a call with me, I'd love to get on one-on-one and see how we can help each other.
And that's the bottom QR code right there, yes?
Yep, it sure is.
And if you
Absolutely.
happen to be in New York City, that's where we'll be next week. We're having a meet and greet on Thursday night. Anybody who happens to be there in the Big Apple, join us for investments and refreshments.
And that's actually a great question. I know we post a lot on LinkedIn, but I know I'll be in California in 2 weeks doing a meet and greet as well. We have another one in Dallas. So if you do have an opportunity to follow me on LinkedIn, there is a lot of opportunities that we're doing meet and greets across the country. I am still a meet in person type of guy, and so would love to be able to meet you.
So Terry Anderson is asking, when would an investment return be paid out for investors? Would you like to do maybe use the St. Pete's as an
Yeah.
example?
Absolutely. So we're celebrating 1 year open in June. I'm expecting us to stabilize the following year. So I would believe that we're about a year and a half before St. Peter's officially does a distribution. But while it's not, you are accruing your preferred interest. So your account is still gaining interest while we're not paying out that distribution. But when we start to send out distributions, you get made whole first before we get paid. And that's part of that preferred equity or preferred return model.
And when we say it's a 4-year investment, that's not 4 years on the dot. That's an exit that is timed in a way to optimize results. So it might be 3.5, might be 4.25. We always want to make sure that we maximize your investment dollars as well as our own. And
Absolutely.
to summarize, we'll be in Dana Point in early June, and in Dallas-Fort Worth the Dallas-Fort Worth area in July. That's July 10th, I believe. June 5th or 6th in Dana Point. And Chicago, we'll be in Chicago as well during the self-storage conference that's there, and that's mid-June. We'll have meet and greets in all those locations. Paul, you wanted to say something?
I wanted to thank you, Anne-Marie, and thank James and Yeah, just for the wonderful opportunity. I just really appreciate being able to spread the message of self-directed IRAs and how investors can certainly mitigate needlessly donating to the IRS and paying those capital gains taxes. I just wanted to extend a heartfelt thank you. Thank you both.
Thank you. And we will be sending a recording of this webinar with the PowerPoint after we complete this today. It'll probably be tomorrow. And we welcome you to share that with other people who may be interested. If you have brothers, sisters, friends, children, parents who have some IRAs sitting around that they've gathered over their years of working. Most of us do, and so this is a great opportunity to put those dollars to work for you. I love that there's no capital gain tax. How many decisions are driven by that? That's so true. So thank you, Paul, for joining us. We will have Paul's contact information in that email so that you can reach out to him to learn more about how to turn your IRAs into self-directed opportunities for you. And of course, our contact information will be there. And as James said, follow us on LinkedIn and you'll see where we'll be and when we'll be there.
Well, thank you again, all of you that attended tonight. I hope that you have been able to find some value. We appreciate your time, and just know that we're trying to do our best to continue to provide value. And Paul, thank you for tonight. There's a few more notes that I took as well, and I'm looking forward to helping our investors work with you firsthand. And Anne Marie, again, thank you for this evening for helping us through the questionnaires. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening and a beautiful holiday weekend with your friends and family.
Yes. Happy Memorial Day.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all.
Thank you, Annie.